What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Space City Rottweilers podcast. I am your captain, your host, Mr. Corey. And today I have my first guest. This brother has been in the Rottweiler game for over 20 plus years. He has basically helped me get my Rottweiler game right. Coming all the way from Florida, we got Mr. David from A9 Rottweilers. What's up, Dave?
What's going on, man? How you doing?
Doing all right, man. How you doing today?
Yeah, doing okay, man. Doing okay. Had to rush in from regular duties with the wife. Had to run out and go get this mattress. I was sweating like crazy, so I know we're starting a little late, so I apologize.
Oh, it's all good, man. We just didn't want to get you in trouble with the missus.
Oh, hey, you know how it is, man. You know that's priority, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Definitely. But thank you for coming on the show, man.
Most definitely.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So we're gonna go ahead and dive in, man. How long have you been in the Rottweiler game?
Man, I just turned 40 years old this year, so I just turned 40, the big 4-0 for me. And you know that, Corey. You know, I was out in Texas just a few months ago for that UFC fight with John Jones and what's his name? Dominic Cruz, I think it was.
Yeah.
Oh, no, not Dominic Cruz. Dominic Reyes.
Dominic Reyes, yeah. Big bone.
Yeah, Reyes. Yes, sir. At any rate, so I just turned 40. But I started, honestly, with the Rotties in terms of Rotties. I got my first Rottweiler when I was 14 years old. Okay. So, and it's something I've just been infatuated with pretty much ever since I got my first dog, who I named Sasha, which was a female. So I've been in the game for a little over 25 years, if you count those years as well, because my interest in animals started from even super young age. So my interest in animals probably started anywhere between the ages of 10 and 12. And dogs were always just a favorite of mine. And then I keyed in or honed in on the Rottweiler around the age of, I want to say about 13, 14 years old is when I really honed in, started researching as much as I could at the time. We didn't have internet hardcore like we do now. Right. We had internet, but it wasn't hardcore like that. You couldn't just go to Google and, figure everything out right away. Not the way it is now. So a lot of research was detailed in terms of word of mouth, going around, talking to people, and, learning from people who are already in the breed. So that's how I originally got started, man. And I've been doing it for over 20 some odd years, man, off and on between me being in the military and whatnot.
So was the Rottweiler your first breed that you chose, or did you have other breeds before?
I've had other breeds. I've had other dogs, man. I've had other dogs, other animals, man. I've had gerbils, hamsters. I've had, even right now we're talking, I'm getting messages from people asking me how much deposits are. Anyway, I've had gerbils, hamsters, cats, not birds. I don't think we never done bird. Although I think we found a bird one time, but I was an animal man in general. But originally we've had Cairn Terriers, small breed dogs. I had a German Shepherd his name was Wesley. He was a Golden Retriever German Shepherd mix, probably one of the prettiest dogs I've ever seen. This dog was he had like this red golden fur, and it was a short fur like a Shepherd. So he had golden fur, a black stripe down his back, his ears stood up, and he looked just like a German Shepherd. This dog was slick. Beautiful athletic dog, man. And that was one of my last dogs I remember before we started going into Rottweilers and whatnot. But we've definitely had quite a few dogs. We actually had a purebred German Shepherd before him, who unfortunately got hit very young by a car. Little puppy ran into the street and got hit, unfortunately. So I've experienced all of it, man. The heartbreak of owning a puppy, losing a puppy, owning dogs, raising them to full age, and having to put them down. So I would say, I've always been interested in multiple breeds, but something stuck about the Rottweiler. Loved it, especially in the 90s. There was a big boom of Rottweilers here in the U.S. and just fell in love with them, man.
That's crazy, man. We kind of have a lot of things in common. I don't think I had any gerbils. My parents wouldn't let me have anything like that.
Yeah, we had gerbils. We had hamsters too, really hamsters. I had a couple of gerbils, they hamsters, but we had them. Rabbits, we had that.
Yeah, I think my dad had one rabbit. We always had fish. I think I had turtles, and of course down here in Texas, we like horses and things of that such.
Yep.
Just kind of hounding on the Rottweiler, man. But you kind of hit on it a little bit. So what originally attracted you to the Rottweiler breed?
I would say that, like everybody else, man, the popularity of the dog at the time. Again, there was a big influx and boom of the Rotties in the '90s. Now, I'm an '80s/90s baby. I was born in the '80s, but really grew up in the '90s for the most part. So in 1990, I turned 10 years old in 1990, and around that time, there was an influx of just starting in the '90s into the mid '90s where it was huge. As a matter of fact, in that period of time, the Rottweiler was the most registered dog in the AKC. Number one registered dog in the AKC. That just tells you how many people in the U.S. have. They were super popular. Even at that time, that influx was early. It was a boom. So a lot of the blood was still really pure from Germany and whatnot. So it was almost like you can get a puppy from everybody. You're going to get a good looking dog. That's how big the boom was at the time. But like anything, when you have a boom, and you have an influx of something, what happens is too much quantity will kill the quality. You know what I mean? And that's what happened over the period of the '90s and late 2000s. And that starts bringing us into people calling them American Rottweilers and this and that. When in reality, that's a whole nother story. We can go into that later if you want. The whole American versus German stuff. I'm sure you're going to ask me about it.
I already know.
So, I'll let you jump into that when you're ready to jump into it. But basically, that's what happened. Rottweilers, there wasn't in the '90s. You could probably get from any person, and I say any person, a backyard breeder or your typical person who just happened to have a male and a female, and they had puppies. They weren't really trying to have puppies, but thing was they had good blood. Because, everything was just fresh at that point, with the Rottie, at least in my experience, it was really fresh in the '90s. So in '94, '95, that's when I got my first female. And, what really attracted me to the dog was once I got to know the dog was just the loyalty of the dog, the presence of the dog, what the presence commanded. I mean, I don't think anybody who knows what a Rottweiler looks like knows that even if you have the biggest punk dog in the world, it doesn't look like when you first approach the dog from a distance, you think that's the most terrifying dog you're going to meet or whatnot. And that was a presence for me. I grew up in the city, so that was a big deal to have a dog that warded off strangers or potential people that were going to break into your home, burglars, things as such. That was the most important thing in the city growing up for your dog. Your dog had to have that presence and command that presence in the inner city, to where people didn't want to, basically tangle in your yard, so they knew. So that was especially important to me. But then I just loved the overall look of the dog, the beauty of the dog, consistency, loyalty, the robust look. It's a big dog, but not too big, but it's a solid dog and just nice, solid foundation. So those are some of the things and traits. And then personality-wise, that's the other thing. They've got this. They've got a rep, unfortunately, because of media outlets, and I shouldn't say media outlets because media just reports what it sees, right? Mm-hmm. So for the most part, right, media, news outlets reports what's given to them, what they see. But when you have bad owners combined with the media, now you got this, recipe for disaster in the sense of the dog being, thought of as this mean and uncontrollable dog, when in reality, you're talking about people that just don't know how to, raise a particular or a specific breed of dog, and it really gives it a bad rap in that sense, or it did. But Rottweilers, I'll combat that with the fact that Rottweilers have been top 10 of the top 10 on AKC list of family dogs listed in the AKC list for the last, I want to say 20 some odd years. They've been top 10 in that top 10 category. That's not something you reach by having a dog that's uncontrollable or mean or aggressive and whatnot. I can make a Chihuahua mean. You know what I mean? If I put it right.
They say Chihuahuas bite more people than Rottweilers.
Absolutely true. The thing is, it's no different than anything else. The dog is small and not very intimidating. So you're not gonna get here doing. Who's gonna go report in the news that they got bit by a Chihuahua and it hurt and things as such?
So that big boom in the '90s, and like you always saw them on TV and the music videos and even in movies. Yeah. And they always kind of fit that bad media stigma, even with the movies. Like
that's right.
At the end of Low Down Dirty Shame, I think he had like Rottweilers and Dobermans when they.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, I was just watching that movie the other day. It's funny you mentioned that. I was just watching that movie the other day. It was playing on TV, and yeah, and that's what the dog was portrayed as. And honestly, that was part of the appeal of the dog too. Especially if yeah, some people get dogs, even with pit bulls and different type of Staffordshire Terriers and American Bullies and whatnot. The appeal is what they look like in terms of what you think you can do. But a lot of these dogs are bred for temperament as well now, Hell, the pit bull or American Staffordshire Terrier was the top family dog for years in like the 20s, 30s, the 40s. This was one of the top family dogs. Like this dog was literally the babies in the house. This was their babysitter, But, it's like anything else. If you treat something incorrectly, then the consequences can be harsh. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, and that's what happens with anything. But it's not to say every breed is like that. I know it likes to be projected that way, but it's just not true. Clearly it's not, Even I had that same stigma where I grew up in the city, Pit bulls where I grew up were just mean as hell, like me, but they were brought up that way. I mean, and even me, I was terrified of them because the thing was that you never knew or you knew. So it was like you never really. I never tried to pet any of my friends' pit bulls just because of the rep. You know what I mean? It could have been the sweetest dog in the world, but the reputation kept me back. Like I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I'm not messing with those dogs.
Yeah, you need to definitely control, what people think about these dogs, because people don't know that, like you said, pit bulls are the most, family-oriented dogs. They're pretty like other dog aggressive to
Absolutely, and that could be in any breed.
Right.
It's specifically important, especially me as a breeder. I like to stress that people make sure you research the breed that you're looking into, man. I mean, a dog may look good to you, but just because you like the way a dog looks, it's not necessarily a reason to get a dog. You know what I mean? Or to get that specific breed is what I mean.
Right.
You should really look, and this goes for anybody, mind you. I specifically deal with Rottweilers, but I encourage people like, listen, the Rottweiler may not be for your personality type. It may not be the personality type you like. You know what I mean? A pit bull may not be that. A Chihuahua may not be that. A French bulldog may not be that. So you have to really do your research. And that's one thing I noticed that people lack sometimes. They lack doing the research on a breed. All puppies are cute. I tell people that all the time. All puppies are cute. The ugliest dog breed puppy is cute. Okay, they got something to it. Even with the little buck teeth or something lifting out, those little Chinese crescents look like little rats. They're cute when they're puppies. Everything is cute. Rats are cute when they're babies. You know what I mean? So, for you to get a dog based on the fact that you think that it's cute is not the right reason to get a dog, or a puppy, because all puppies are cute. So I always stress that. Make sure you do your research into the breed of the dog that you're looking for. See if that personality matches yours or matches your family, not just yours. Because if you have a family, you want to make sure it matches the family personality as well, or make sure it's a personality that you're willing to deal with. You got some breeds that are super high energy, like your Vizslas, your Malinois. Malinois is another popular breed right now. People think like that's like one of the worst breeds to get if you don't know what you're getting into. Wonder where those dogs are so high energy. These dogs leap fences for fun, and I'm talking about 6, 7, 8 foot fences for fun. You know what I mean? And if you think that's just going to be an inside house dog just chilling, you got another thing coming. Those dogs are meant to be worked.
Right.
You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with having them as family pet. I'm not telling you that. What I'm saying is that if you're going in to get that breed, you better understand what's coming with that breed. And it's a different level of responsibility than maybe having a Rottweiler or maybe having a pit bull or maybe having a Frenchie. You know what I mean? So it's not to stick out. It's not to stick out any group. But hell, I even got a few associates of mine that I talk to online and whatnot that actually train and breed Malinois. And they'll tell you, hey, this ain't for the faint of heart. You're not supposed to just come and get one of these puppies you think it's gonna be happy-go-lucky. Right. I have yet to see Malinois in any litter that was chill. You know what I mean?
Right.
That was laid back. The breed is meant to have high drive. You know what I mean? So you can't really, you can't be and I don't mean it, how you say, it's not to put down anybody or anything, but you can't be a guy who's not a very active individual, guy or female. You're not a very active individual. Maybe you got extra pounds that you like to shed, but then you want to get into a Malinois. Have fun with that. That's probably not your breed type. Do you
think it's the breeder's responsibility to kind of educate possible customers?
Absolutely. But especially if you see it, like, for example, a lot of times, and we shouldn't make the assumption, but sometimes just as humans do, we make assumptions about certain people. If somebody's contacting with me, I sometimes assume that they dealt with the breed before. And actually, I don't. So that I should take that back. I usually ask everybody if they have experience, but I listen to them. Is really what it is. I listen to people, and if they haven't mentioned that they've had big dog breeds before, then I'll ask them, hey, have you ever had a Rottie or a large breed dog? Because a lot of large breed dogs tend to fall into the same category in terms of personality. You know what I mean? Especially in the working group. So you got a lot of dogs that fall into that same personality type. So if I had somebody who had a Mastiff or English Mastiff or just a Mastiff or maybe a Great Dane or something, they all kind of tend to fall into that somewhat same personality group of a Rottweiler, you know? So when they tell me that, then I know they have experience with at least a large breed dog, you know? Right. But yeah, it's definitely the breeder's responsibility to make sure that these people are getting dogs. Are you just going to have an influx of people either who can't handle a dog, who potentially can get not necessarily bit by that dog, but allow the dog to do things that they shouldn't allow the dog to do at a young age, and it winds up now you got this dog potentially going into a shelter and whatnot, and just making that whole situation worse. So we definitely go through a process of selecting people that pick our puppies, and a lot of people say, well, you sell pups. And I sell pups, but it's my responsibility to make sure they go to forever homes, not just regular homes. You know what I mean? Not just a temporary home. The job is for them to go to their for we like to say forever in the dog community in general. Like people say forever homes. You know what I mean? Little cute I guess word for it is forever home. So we like them puppies to go to forever homes, so that way they're staying with these people forever. So I've been doing it so long that the way I talk to people is that such where they're speaking to me, they're being open, and I'm listening to what they expect from a puppy, what they're looking for in a puppy, and what experience they have from a dog. So a lot of times I don't have to question people. It usually comes out per the conversation we're having.
Right.
But definitely it's the responsibility for these people to make sure these puppies are going to the right homes. If you got somebody who's just not a headstrong person, I wouldn't recommend certain breeds to that person.
Where would you recommend somebody should go to research on a Rottweiler if they're interested in getting a Rottweiler?
Oh, that's the easiest part, Corey, because I got to tell you, remember how I told you, I grew up, it's not like I'm ultra old, but it's funny how technology has changed, right? In just a matter of 10 years, we got things that I was like, wow, holy crap, I didn't think we'd have that right now looking at me. Potentially self-driving cars and things as such, potentially being built on the cusp of, I'm still a fairly young dude, but technology has changed, so research is easier than ever now, man. Honestly, you can find anything on YouTube. You could find Google. I wouldn't give specific sites per se because there's such an influx of information out there now that you can literally go anywhere. But obviously, good old Google is always going to do you right, in terms of finding something. But I like to don't just go on Google, but now once you find whatever recommendations from Google, now research those recommendations, research those different pages. I mean, you can never have too much knowledge. You know what I mean? So YouTube is one of my favorites as well. I find a lot of times people are conveying a message through the video. So as opposed to you having to read about it, you hear somebody get to hear somebody talk about it, and which makes it obviously even easier. So plethora of information out there, man. It's just a matter of looking it up and going to certain places. And quite frankly, it's no different than anything else. The most popular places where you're going to find that information: Google, Yahoo, YouTube, things like that.
Well, you kind of hit on it earlier, and we're gonna go ahead and dive right into it. The popular stigma on Rottweilers, American versus German. If there's a difference, is there a difference, or what is the difference?
Well, look, I'll give you. I always laugh at that question. I think it's so funny because even I used to buy into that crap, and I tell people all the time. I'm like, and when I say buy into, it's after research. Research, people. Dang, just read. This isn't something I came up with. It's just true. You know what I mean? It's like saying, for example, and I told you this before, Corey, so we'll tell everybody else now. Okay, Corey, where are you from? Yeah, you from Houston. Okay, Corey, where is your overall ethnic heritage potentially from?
America.
You see? Now, let me hear this. Now, what I'm going to tell you, Corey, is that, yeah, you're American. You're from Houston, Texas, but your lineage is from Africa. You know what I'm saying? Your lineage is from Africa. It's always going to be from Africa. I
Right.
don't care if you're born in Houston, Texas. You know what I'm saying? Hell, especially with the events going on right now, we've been proven several times that we'll always be black, correct? So we'll,
Correct.
we'll always be black, or what they call black. You know what I mean? Which is also another term. We won't even go there, but
No,
you know, you know. But the bottom line is that your lineage more than likely comes is as a descendant of Africa. You know what I'm saying? Does that change your African ancestry that you were born in Houston or that you were born in America in Houston, Texas, or or any part of Texas?
no.
Heck no, it could never change it. So why would me being born in America change the lineage of the fact that I was a German or I was a dog that was categorized by Germans, but originally from Rome?
Right.
You know what I mean? Those are where those dogs come from. It's
Right.
as simple as that. The only thing that makes any dog born on American soil, the only thing that makes any dog American is that it's born on American soil. That's it. It's not categorized as a Rottweiler. Now, the difference between the two, where people say, well, I noticed clear differences in the ones that I see people posting from Germany or from Europe and the ones that are posted sometimes in America.
Right.
I'm like, well, I'll tell you that difference right now. That's called people breeding crap.
Right.
It's as simple as that. There's only one way it's supposed to look. It's no different than if if you got one version of you, Corey, and then they went along and started doing whatever they wanted and tried to breed another version of you, and that version came out all decrepit and crippled and things and such, and not looking like the standard. Well, then that means that they didn't take their time to put in the effort to breed that dog correctly.
Right.
And if people don't get it, that whole American term thing, man, that's an insult. Hell, I think I'm almost positive Europeans made it up because they started seeing the crap that we were doing with the dogs and not following the guidelines in terms of how to breed these dogs. People were just rushing, putting them together, and that goes back to that influx boom in the '90s where anybody was getting dogs, and this was the concept. Breeding is an art. Breeding is a science, man. You know what I mean? If you're going to actually breed, breeding is an art and a science, man. You can't really rush the process. You got to do research to make sure you're putting dogs together so that way you get a consistent look. What you had was in the 90s and the early 2000s, you had people who were breeding dogs because, well, this dog look good, that dog look good, let's put them together.
Mm-hmm.
Or, you know what, it's a Rottweiler, so we just put it together.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had people lying about what breed they had. You had a dog that was a Rottweiler mixed with a German Shepherd. Now you're trying to breed it back to a Rott. Yeah, you're going to get that look because they have a similar color pattern. But then you're getting a different type of dog, which starts changing that color base. You start getting that lighter color instead of the dark mahogany or rich mahogany color that you should have in a Rottie. And that's all it is. So the bottom line is, and I'll tell you right now, there's no such thing as an American Rottweiler. There's dogs that are born on American soil. They're all of German recognition and Roman descent.
Right.
That's what they are, and that's bottom line. I'll challenge anybody on that, and I'll prove it to you every time because it's just the bottom line. I mean, it's just logic when you think about it. You know what I mean? You got people that just were not breeding dogs correctly, and they wind up making this other version of a dog that looks like a half Doberman, half whatever. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with a dog that's, any dog, to tell you the truth. If the dog is healthy, there's nothing wrong with any dog. So I don't mean to make, some people might say, oh, well, I think my dog is stupid because it doesn't look like the standard. No, by all means, no. Hell, if anything, mutts make some of the smartest dogs. But what I'm saying is we're following a standard. That dog is clearly not bred to standard. You know what I'm saying? When I see a dog, and in the Europeans have set a standard for dogs, and guess what? They get to do that because they're the one that pretty much made the breed what it is today.
Right.
It's kind of like Trevor Noah said, you guys don't get to call a zebra because you don't have them. They're called zebras. They're not called zebras.
Right.
So he even broke it down in the joke and said, how do you explain Deborah then? You don't call her Debra, you call her Deborah. So guess what? You don't call her Debra.
Yeah.
You call her Deborah. So guess what? It's a zebra, not a zebra. And you know how he said we get to name them because we have them. You don't. That's why we get to name them zebra or zebra, correct?
So how do you feel about where the breed is as of right now in 2020, since you kind of go back all the way from the 90s and experiencing what the breed looked like when it still had its rich roots tied to Germany or Europe compared to what we have out there now?
Well, now you got a few of these guys from Serbia, which is also Europe, that are producing a somewhat different look where you're getting more of a mashed face and whatnot. I'm not a big fan of it. At the same time, I can appreciate and take something from everything. at the same time. But I definitely wouldn't want to see the dog evolve into where the face is completely smashed. You got dogs looking like pugs in some of these cases. You know what I mean? You got big Rottweilers looking like pugs in some cases. But I can appreciate taking some aspects from those dogs and trying to blend them with some nice strong blood as well, or German blood, I should say. You know, something strong in terms of the original look. Or I want to say the 90s look, I should say, of the Rottweiler, you know, 90s to the early 2000s look, you know? Mm-hmm. And basically, in terms of I think the Rotty's going strong, man. The popularity, in terms of popularity, I'd say my only critique is definitely the people that are breeding on these more mash-faced looks. You got to be careful because it looks like they're looking for a shorter and shorter muzzle every time, and that's not how the breed's supposed to be, man. Rottweilers are working dogs. They're not supposed to have a hard time breathing. Right. You know what I mean? The dog is a working dog. It's meant to work. It's meant to put in work. Yeah, and a lot of people don't even realize that Rottweilers are also herding dogs. They do herd. They herd naturally. They'll do it. And if conditioned, they're excellent herders, okay? So this is a working dog. The dog is meant to work. And once you start shortening the snout and evolving, you can wind up potentially causing breathing issues, as we all know. They're common in like French bulldogs, and things like that, where they have issues breathing and whatnot, especially after long periods of play or whatever the case may be, to the point where it could be detrimental to them, you know?
So their health when people do stuff like that to the breed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're kind of mutating the dog. You know what I mean? I mean, if you think about it, all pure breed dogs are mutations in a sense because, you know, all pure breed dogs started off as mutts, so they got recognized by our standards as humans to call them pure breeds. You know what I mean? So technically, all dogs are mutts if you get real technical. Oh, yeah. But once we find a standard that's acceptable, or the powers that be says is acceptable, you know, a lot of times there's a reason behind that why, hey, this is acceptable, this is not. At least I'll speak for the Rottweiler. I won't talk for every other breed, but I'll speak for the Rottweiler specifically. And you definitely don't want that snout to be too short. I like the proportions on Rottweilers. I definitely like a nice, robust dog. And obviously it changes between the male and the female in terms of the look slightly, you know. Usually it's in terms of size and weight is where you see the look change a bit. Sometimes you'll see females that just look a little more feminine than males, you know, where they have as opposed more of a square face, they have more of an elongated face and whatnot, or just something symmetrically where you can tell that dog's a female. You know, I like a female that looks a little more masculine, but not too much. Nice in between. That's me. But as far as the state of the Rottweiler, I think the state of the Rottweiler is pretty fine. It's just that I guess that would be my only complaint, man. Watch out for those muzzles, people. Like, you know, people are going in more extreme and extreme and extreme. And to me, it's just not healthy for the dog. You know what I mean? Whatever the hell you guys are breeding these dogs with. I mean, you know, it's not healthy for the dogs. I have limits. And again, there's some of it that I appreciate and some of it that I can say, hey, I can take something for it. But at the end of the day, you know, that's just my advice. At the end of the day, I'm going to say like, I forget his name right now. I won't quote him, but he said in a video, he was a big dude in the bully world. And he said, you know what? Breed what you like. You know what I'm saying? Breed what you like. Now, I'd imagine you take the time to also make sure that the breed is healthy still going forward.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because if we don't have a healthy breed, then we potentially lose the breed altogether.
Right. Yeah, and that's what, you know, people don't understand when you start doing all these crazy things with these dogs. The original dog and the standard that the dog is supposed to be, you know, can come extinct. And
that's right.
Start having all these, you know, these different type of whatever, cock Rottweiler, whatever you want to, you know.
That's right. Yeah. They're just crazy. You got wider eyes, these heads that look like Mega Mind. And, you know what I'm saying? I like a big head on the Rottweiler, but it's supposed to be proportioned.
Right.
You can't have the top as big as hell and the face is mushed in and whatever. It doesn't look balanced. You know what I mean? And again, that's what I like. You know what I mean? And, you know, obviously we share similar taste. So, you know, I could even go as far as say that's what we like, you know, but, you know, everybody has their look. And at the end of the day, to me, my thing is just make sure you keep the dogs healthy. You know what I mean? Breed what you like, but keep the dogs healthy. So I never protest against somebody's breeding program. You know, at the same time, I may not select you to get a puppy from. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, you know, pug look, man. That I want a Rottweiler. I don't want a Pugweiler or whatever.
Pugweiler. There you go. That's what we call them, Pugweilers and stuff. You know. And again, there's things I can appreciate because there's always good in anything that you may see bad. There may be some good there too. So I always tell people, like, you know, hey, jump out of yourself because there may be something there that you can use to improve your breeding program.
Right.
You know, there could be something there that you're not paying attention to. But if there's that, but at the end of the day, you do have to like what you have in your breeding program. That's a big deal. You know,
Right.
and I've told you that before too, Corey. Like, you know, if you don't like it, then why are you breeding it?
Right.
You
Right.
gotta have you have to like what you're breeding. You know what I mean? You gotta really like or enjoy what you're putting together. You know, if you're just putting together a dog to put it together, you're like, this is what. But if you don't like it, then you know it'll reflect that you don't like it.
Right. What kind of
It's
advice
like
would
anything else.
you give a young breeder or someone who's contemplating on breeding any kind of dog? But we just gonna stick with the Rottweiler. Let's just say, you know, they've had a male and they're interested in, possibly want to get. What's some steps that a person should take before they, kind of get knee deep into the breed?
I would say the main thing for anybody getting into the breed, into any breed, this goes for anybody breeding. I think the biggest misconception is that people think they need to get a male. I tell you this all. There's a lot of things me and Corey talk about, by the way. So you always hear me refer to Corey. But the biggest misconception I think in the breeding world is I got to get me a nice male. I think that's the stupidest thing on the planet. And the reason I say that is it's not that it's a bad idea to get a male or a nice, powerful male, but if you're getting into breeding, who's producing the puppies?
Right.
It's females. So to me, and this is probably best advice that some people won't listen to. I even did it myself. You know, so some people got to learn the hard way, and it's okay. You can learn. But you'll always remember that I said the smartest thing you could do, because I learned it too. Somebody passed it on to me, and I didn't quite listen completely, but at least I caught it early.
Right.
Is to your breeding program needs to consist of phenomenal females. Focus on your females. You can get semen from anywhere, which means you could potentially produce the male you're looking for in somebody else's program. Mm-hmm. And what's cool about that is if you control the female, you control the pups, which means you control what pick you have in terms of a phenomenal male that may come out of your own litter. You know, when you go get a male from somebody, you're taking it on their word. And not to say there's great people out there. You know, I think Corey's had a good experience with me getting puppies from me. And you know, and I believe in karma, so I like to deliver what I say. And quite frankly, I wouldn't give you crap, because if I wouldn't like it, I wouldn't sure as hell pass it on to somebody else. But that's just me. I know everybody's not like that. But what's nice about having your own females, especially if you're looking for a potential male in the future, is that you can set it up that way. You can set it up to where you get females from different lineages and you've got nice bad females. So that way, if one of those females ever produces a bomb male, well, guess what? You can take that bomb male back to your other females, not his mama, of course, but the other females that you have in your program, because you lined it up that way. Right. So that's my biggest advice for anybody is definitely concerned. If you're looking to get into actual breeding, worry about your females. Stop worrying about males and what bad is males, because nowadays we got, first of all, you can connect all over the world now via social media, which means you can get semen from all over the world now in terms of male dogs that you really like, without having to go through a potential risk of getting a male from somebody that doesn't turn out. You know what I mean? In this case, you have more control and power over what male you take, you know? And my thing is, if you're going to keep a male, then he better be one of the baddest males. You know what I mean? You know, that's not necessarily promoted or whatever, or maybe he doesn't have a title, but he should be one of the baddest males out there if you're keeping a male in your program, you know? And then, even then, you're still waiting, because now you're waiting to see if he produces. You know what I mean? With a female, you know, I could take a female and I know she has great lineage and she has a good look, great. She doesn't have to be crazy super. You know, so of course that's the ideal. We want them to be super. Right. But if you take her to a top male that's already, landed that top spot, well, now you got a bad female who's bred to one of the baddest males on the planet. Mm-hmm. So what, doesn't that make sense? And I tell people all the time, you'd be surprised at how many people I talk to and give that advice. And I tell them that all the time. They're like, I never thought about it that way. And like, even myself, I did the same thing. I didn't think about it that way. You're right. Because you can get any male you want in the world. You can get that semen and control that semen in your program and produce potentially the male you've been looking for. So that would be my biggest advice, is that, focus on your females. The other thing is also do your research. Make sure you're following the standard of the breed. Research, man. It's not a hard thing to do, man. It's one of those things that literally, sometimes people hear research and I think they think it's 20 hours a day or 5 hours out of their day or something, maybe realistically. And it's really not that long. If you really enjoy something, even if you're doing it for 20 minutes, you'll learn something new. You'll learn something that you put in your program. If you did it 20 minutes a day, hell, if you did it 1 hour a week, you know what I mean? Just researching dog, I guarantee you, and researching the breed that you want to get into, I guarantee you, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something new every week, several new things every week that you're going to put into your database, some of it which you should be writing down, and things that you don't like that you may want to capitalize on in terms of or change, rather, I should say.
Right.
Change that you're like, I don't like that they do that. Let me see if I can change it some kind of way and do it my own way, But that's really the main thing, is that worry about your females and do your research on the breed, so that way you can learn the breed. It's not a crazy hard thing to do, especially for you guys in this generation. Now, man, this crap ain't hard. Turn on your phone. You literally got a computer in your hand all the time. We never had that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
nonsense, man. I
didn't even have a cell phone in high school, Corey. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, bro.
I could be in front of my phone all day, man, just watching and learning and, different stuff, man. I sit there all day. Sometimes it might come off as I'm obsessed with it, but, it's just that knowledge, and,
It's just the knowledge.
You want to get
But
better.
the thing is, we have our phones now. You got these little mini computers in your hand now where you can you do have the time, because people are always flopping around on their phone. Everybody has downtime on their phone. You probably could be doing something better, like working out or something. But
right. Hey, I watch it while I work out.
Exactly. Even me, I put my phone on, watching YouTube while I'm running on the treadmill or whatever the case may be. And the thing is, you have it right in your hand, so it's not like you got to go to a library per se, or you could do that too, but a lot of people don't do that nowadays. A lot of times people who are going to the library, it's maybe the few kids that have book assignments, and then people that don't have a personal computer at home or access to that. And a lot of people you'll find in the library are homeless folks, so who may not have a home or just may not have a PC of their own.
Right.
So but most people do have, even there's even homeless people with cell phones, so there's really no excuse not to have a research tool to look this up if you really want to look it up. And it doesn't take much. Literally type in Google Rottweiler. That's it. You're gonna get influx of information pop up.
Right. What's some of the mistakes you might have made early in your getting into the breed? I know you touched on,
that's easy. That's easy, man. That's easy. Easy one is just not researching the breed. Not researching the breed, being uninformed. It didn't really come to bite me, but I would say my biggest mistake was one time, this is when I was younger. I would call it my backyard breeding days. I could admit that easily. A lot of people won't say that. I will. Because it was part of what made me me. And it wasn't. And when we hear backyard breeding, sometimes we think the most horrible thing, but really, it's just, to me, it's not necessarily some backyard bastard that's breeding dog. Right. It just maybe, when I say backyard breeding, it means somebody who's not necessarily completely educated in the process of the breed. You know what I mean, and how they should go about breeding in general. So when I say backyard breeder, I just mean somebody who's just a little less educated in the process, that may have a genuine love for dogs and things and such, but they just, they're kind of learning as they go, know? And as a result, you're going to make a lot of mistakes that way, right? So I would say my biggest mistake one time was when I bred a litter. I must have been like 18 years old, maybe 17 years old. I bred a litter. At this point, I'm not really researching lineage and things and such. And that's another by the way, that's another little caveat. We'll go off of important things to do. Research your lineage, people. But we'll come back to that. Anyway, I would say is really knowing about lineage. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. I get people that call me sometimes, they don't even know what a pedigree is. And I'm like, you don't know what a pedigree is? And I'm like, no. But I don't make them feel that way. In my head, I'm saying, you don't know what a pedigree is. You're talking about, you got these big breeding dreams. You don't even know what a pedigree is, man. Come on. But everybody starts from somewhere, right? So I don't say this to them when I'm on the phone with them. I'm just like, oh, that's interesting. Well, let me help you understand what it is, because I think that's my responsibility to do that. If I want other people to continue good breeding practices, they have to they have to know. If you don't know something, and I know it, well, that's kind of jerky me not to pass that on to you and tell you, hey, man, you kind of, doing that wrong. There's a car coming. Hey, don't cross the street, bro. You about to get hit. Like same kind of concept.
Right.
So I would say one of my biggest mistakes early on was I bred a litter, had a litter. I had one puppy left out the litter that was going to go to a home. I think I had a couple people calling me for the puppy. Well, what happened was, at the time, I didn't have liquid cash per se to go bring the puppy to, at least any to spare, to bring the puppy to get their next set of vaccines. Mm-hmm. Well, hard lesson, like, long story short, that puppy wound up passing the parvo. You know what I mean? I didn't know that. It wasn't until I experienced that I'm like, dang, parvo, come to find out, Rottweilers are one of the most susceptible breeds to parvo, even as they get older. You know, and if you don't know what parvo is, I just tell you what, you don't even want to see a parvo go through a puppy, let alone or even a dog, let alone a puppy. And it's horrible because it's almost like they can't eat anymore. They because they're not eating, they wind up vomiting bile. They have nothing to vomit. They want to get real thin, and and a lot of times when a puppy gets parvo, it's hard to reverse because you can potentially try to cure it within the dog, but once it's there, you usually catch it late, and then a lot of the damage is done internally that you can't really do anything about. So that's one of the biggest mistakes I made, and I learned how important it was to have my puppies having their shots up to date, having their shots. And this was at 18 years old, you know what I mean? Like I'm saying, this is over 20-something years ago. But it's one of those hardcore lessons that even the puppy suffered the bad end of the stick on that one, which always makes my heart hurt a little bit about that. But it's unfortunately a hard lesson that I had to learn. So I want to say, make sure you get your puppies up to date on shots, keep them there, you know, and shots aren't an expensive thing. They're something you could do on your own. A lot of people under the misconception that they have to go to a vet to get shots. A lot of these shots are sold. You just got to learn how to administer them, which via YouTube, Google, you learn how to administer a shot to a puppy. It's not hard at all. It's stupid easy. Even how to, fill up the syringe and whatnot, stupid easy. So these are shots that are available to you on certain animal websites that do sell to the regular man. It's not something you need a prescription for. So you can keep your dogs up to date by literally getting like 25 vials or 50 vials for like $100. You know what I mean? But you have those vials, and if you have to do the shot yourself because you don't want to spend the money on the vet visit, because that may be too much for you depending on what area you're in, then you could do it that way until it's time for that health certification for your pups. Right. So that's a way to save money and save costs if you're trying to breed on a budget, which comes to another point. Like, if you're breeding, you want to be definitely in a certain range of having a certain amount of money put aside for litter, for emergencies, for vaccination shots, health certificates, food. So you want to kind of plan that out because you're going to have these puppies for 2 months, at least. Right. At least 2 months before they're ready to go home, so you want to plan a budget around that too when you're doing breeding and whatnot. So, but again, back to that original question, man, sometimes I tend to spin off, but you definitely, my worst experience, that was probably one of my learning experiences that I learned. But through that, I also learned, through breeding some like backyard litters, I also learned the importance of putting pedigrees together. That's super important, in terms of how you're going to get your consistency in your look of your dog,
What's a pedigree for those who may not know?
A pedigree, no problem, because there are people that don't know it, right? So a pedigree is just it's just your dog's family tree. That's as basic as I can see it. It literally tells you who that dog's parents are, who their parents are, who those parents are, who those parents are. So, and pedigrees usually can go as far as 10 generations, but the ones you'll get in hand usually go anywhere between 3 to 5 generations. Okay. And those are obviously, that's what you're looking for in terms of those dogs. It's as basic as this for a pedigree, man. I won't go into crazy detail just because, for lack of time, or for the sake of time, I should say. But a pedigree is basically, when you're looking at a pedigree to put it together with another dog, you want to see how, if they share any similar ancestors in order to do a line breeding, or maybe they don't share similar ancestors, and you just like the dogs on the back end of that pedigree. The reason that pedigree is important is because it's telling you who those dogs are, what they would potentially look like if they have a picture online and whatnot. Because a lot of times, if you're dealing with high-end dogs, you can find the picture of the parents and those lineages. As far as 10 generations back, you can find dogs. You know what I mean? Pictures online, and depending on what website you're using, what breeding you're doing, what breed you're dealing with. I know they have them for Rottweilers. You know that too, Corey. But you can go back and go as basic as looking at what that lineage looks like in terms of a photo or a video or whatever, so you can see if that's something you want to produce. Because one of the biggest secrets is people don't realize that your dogs don't produce puppies that necessarily look like them. They look like the grandparents of those dogs that you're breeding. Okay, so if you're producing a dog as from mom and dad, you're not looking at necessarily how mom and dad look. You need to know what grandma and grandpa look on both sides, because that's more than likely what those dogs are going to throw. It's not to say there's not sometimes you get some clones of dogs, but a lot of times where you're getting that, where they're getting their phenotype from, which is and if people don't know what phenotype is, phenotype just means what you look like, where genotype is what you're made of, correct? So a lot of times the phenotype is coming from the back lineage of the dog, not the two dogs you bred. So more than likely, you're not going to get dogs that look like the dogs you have. You're going to get dogs and what they look like in the back. And so what the grandparents look like, or maybe the great grandparents, those are what your dog's going to look like. And you can tell this is true. This is just biology and science, because there are people that looks like their grandparents and don't look like their father or mother, unless that line is strong, right?
Right.
You know, you get some guys where dad looks just like son just looks like son looks like that son, and everybody looks alike, right? But sometimes you get those families where you have, the son who looks like maybe a mix of mom and dad, but when you see granddad on the father's side or the mother's side, like, man, he looks just like his grandfather. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And that's a lot of times how it works, you know, in terms of breeding dogs. A lot of times those puppies are going to come off looking like those grandparents on either side.
Right. Now, is it okay for parents to have common lineage on both sides?
Absolutely. Now we get into breeding, right? Yes, sir. We're getting to breeding now. We'll get into breeding a little bit here. We're talking about commonalities. We're talking about breeding. So there's 3 types of breeding, right? Really 2 types, but you'll see what I mean when I explain. Mm-hmm. You have what's called inbreeding. You have what's called line breeding. And then you have what's called an outcross, right? These are the 3 types of breeding, really 2. The reason they're really 2 is because line breeding and inbreeding are similar, but different in this way. When you do a line breeding is like breeding a mother to her son or a father to his direct daughter. Okay, that's line breeding. This is not necessarily a favorite method because you can have abnormalities and that. You got to really know what you're doing to do a line breeding. To do an inbreeding. Okay, it's not something I recommend. You got to be really skilled on doing that and whatnot, because there's a lot of faults you can pull out through doing an actual inbreeding. You know, so I don't necessarily recommend it, but it can be done successfully. Okay, but I would tell you it's definitely not the preferred method. Okay, preferred method of breeding is either the other 2, which is line breeding, which is a form of inbreeding. But in this case, what you're doing is when you're line breeding, you're breeding dogs with similar lineage. So you might breed a cousin to a cousin, a father to or maybe the father of your dog to its granddaughter, or a niece to an uncle, or things like that. These are acceptable in the dog world, by the way, people. So it's acceptable breeding. That's called a line breeding, because you're pulling in. You may have that daughter who has a different mother who's bringing in a whole bunch of different other lines, and then that father has the original line, but they share a similarity where they may have they share a grandfather or uncle or whatever. They share those people in their lineage. That's what's going to produce that consistency in the dog, okay, or in the breed. And that's usually the preferred method of breeding is line breeding, okay? So it is a form of inbreeding, but you're being a lot more careful because you're separating by generations now. You know, they just have similar lineage, but not necessarily in the same place. Right. Okay, it's no different than like maybe you, and I hate to say it like this, but you know, let's go with people, for example. You'll have a better success rate if you bred to your cousin than you bred to your sister.
I'm feeling you gonna go there.
Okay. I ain't compare that way, but the safer breeding would be to breed to your cousin as opposed to your sister. Yeah. So sometimes people say that it's actually the preferred method if you're going to do it. You don't breed to your sister. As a matter of fact, that's how they used to keep in England in terms of those royal families and things and such. The way they kept that line pure was they were having sex with their brothers, sisters, cousins, things and such. And if you look at history photos and things of these people, you'll notice oblong heads and funky little heads and things. They had anomalies, you know, and then they kind of got away from that practice where they started bringing noble blood into the line, where at least if you were of noble blood, you were noble blood, but let's not breed to our cousin or our sister or whatever. Right. But if we were going to do it, you know what I mean, on a royal presence, they would breed with they would lay with their cousin and marry their cousin before they marry their sister. Right. That would be preferred, you know. And this is stuff that used to happen. You know, look and do your research, your history. This is how they used to keep the royal blood royal, supposedly, you know, royal. Is that, hey, well, you know, in order to keep royal, well, we can't have any outside blood inside of us. So, you know, guess what, David? You're going to marry your sister, which makes me want to throw up. So, right. And it's not that my sister's an ugly person, but I definitely don't think about her that way, right? Right. Which I'm sure most people don't. So It has nothing to do with that. It's just the thought to us now, that's crazy taboo now, you know what I mean, to do that. But in terms of dog breeding, it's perfectly acceptable. So, the preferred method is line breeding. Now, the last breeding is outcrossing. Outcrossing is where you take dogs that just pretty much don't have a similar lineage, at least not in that first 5 generations. They might have something on the back end which doesn't affect them, so they might as well be strangers. Okay, so even if they share the same great cousin, but the blood is so diluted that it's like it's on the back end. So again, in real life, if that was human, the chances that you might be you're like, I'm not messing with it, right? But in dog world, that's called the outcrossing, which means that in that case, what you want to do is, in terms of trying to get a consistent litter, an outcrossing is a little more of a gamble because you're getting completely different lineages putting together. But the upside of that is if you like what's in the pedigree, which comes back again to pedigree. If you like what's in the pedigree, then you can breed those dogs. So if you got champions on both sides, and you got dogs that you like, because I have to stress that it has to be something you like, not something everybody else likes. If you don't like it, then why are you doing the breeding? So it's got to be something you like. If you got dogs that you like and you like the blood, you like the pedigree on both ends, and then and you want to put them together, well, that would be an outcrossing. So it means dogs that don't have similar lineage per se, at least in the first 5 generations or so. Mm-hmm. So really, again, there's 2 types of breeding. There's line breeding, or which is a form of inbreeding, and then there's outcrossing. But they are broken down in categories because of how they're done. So you got, again, there's inbreeding, line breeding, and outcrossing. Line breeding being the most preferred method of breeding for most breeders. Most breeders are going to do line breeding, but there's definitely plenty of outcrossing as well. Just because it's healthy to introduce new blood into your line if you can.
What's your preferred method?
Line breeding. That's my preferred method. Is line breeding. I like to know what I'm gonna get, but I like to throw a little mix in there. And from time to time, I do outcrosses as well, because it's good to introduce new blood into your line, especially once you narrow down and you got a consistent line. It's good to introduce new blood into your line to see what else to see if you can take the dog to the next level, because that's what breeding is all about, really. It's about bringing the dog to the next level if you can, in terms of beauty, strength, presence, and a lot of times, if you don't do something, how are you going to know, right? So that's really the purpose of outcrossing to me, is to find out, hey, what else can we introduce into the blood? What's the next level of dog that we can get? So I would say that's the at least for me, the preferred method is line breeding, but outcrossing is definitely something else I'll use. I don't do inbreeding. I just don't, at least inbreeding in the traditional sense of the word. Clearly I do inbreeding if I'm doing line breeding, right? But what I'm saying is I don't do inbreeding in the taboo sense of how it's known. So for me, I just wouldn't dabble in it, even if I knew what I was doing. And I do, but I do. It's just I think it's just too much close blood, so it's too much room for error when you do a true inbreeding. So I just kind of stay away from that. And most breeders, I would imagine, do. So a lot of breeders are either going to do a line breeding or they do outcrossing. I know in the bully world they do a lot of inbreeding. They do a lot of inbreeding in the bully world, and that's how they get their consistent look. But for me, I'm like, I don't like it. And that's just for and remember, we're talking about specifically Rottweilers, so I'm talking about for Rottweilers. So I don't really know much about bullies, so I can't really speak on that. But because what may work for a Rottie may not, in terms of breeding, may not work for a bully in terms of breeding, and I don't know that. I don't have all the experience there, but I would say in terms of the Rottweiler world, I would say most people's preferred method is either going to be a line breeding or outcrossing.
So let me ask you this: is there a difference between blood and the look of the dog?
What do you mean by that?
Like okay, just because a dog looks a certain type of way, like let's just with the pugs, for instance, does that necessarily mean that's a new bloodline or a new blood, or is that just a look that they made with a combination of?
I would say it's not necessarily a new line of blood. It's just it's evolution. You know what I'm saying? It's evolution through practicing. It's no different when you're breeding. Remember, people as breeders, you control the game kind of, so you can control which direction your dog's going to go into. So I would say it's as simple as, hey, I saw this dog. Wow, this dog looks different than the rest of the group. So next time I get another dog like that, and they look just like that, and maybe it's a female, well, I'm going to breed those guys so I can try to keep that consistent look. You know what I mean? Right. Then before you know it, I got it going and going and going, and that's how I'm producing it consistently. it made me think of something else when you said that too, in terms of line. That actually brings me to another point. Reading is a science and an art. Like I say that all the time. Reading is a science and an art. A lot of people who are not educated in breeding in general, just breeding, forget Rottweiler, just breeding. This is a big misconception too. People think that, oh, if I get that dog, I'm going to have bomb puppies. If I can just get that semen, or I can just breed to that male, even though you know your dog don't look the part. You know what I mean? Even though you know your dog maybe lineage-wise doesn't have the part. But I've seen it in reverse as well. Sometimes I've seen dogs that don't look the part, and they produce some nice puppies because of the dog they were bred to, you know? So that, again, that's kind of an experiment to see what we get. But my point is that just because you have two good-looking dogs or you have one good-looking dog doesn't necessarily mean it's going to supersede the dog that you have. What if the dog that, for lack of better words, we'll say, what if the ugly dog, what if the ugly dog, you know, who's not bringing much to the table, but let's say that blood is strong in that ugly dog. And now it supersedes that beautiful male you done bred to her. Now you got a whole bunch of little ugly rascals running around. I hate to say it like that, but you know what I mean. Now you got a whole bunch of little ugly rascals running around because you didn't do your research in terms of breed. And your dog. So at bare minimum, let's say your dog doesn't look the part, but your dog has nice lineage. Well, that's something I potentially breed. You know what I mean? Because they got strong lineage, and you never know what you'll pull out of that. You know. And a lot of times we're not producing for the, because I'd be contradicting myself if I say I wouldn't do that, because I just said to you that a lot of puppies ain't going to look like what the parents look like. Right. They're going to look like what the lineage is behind them. So it's fair to say that if I got a dog that's not such a great looker, but her pedigree is bad, nice, bad in a good way, guys, by the way, for my white friends. Bad in a good way. But bad in a good way, you know, so a nice, strong pedigree.
Yeah.
You know, let's say you got a dog with nice strong pedigree, but it doesn't necessarily look the part. But now you take her to a dog that looks the part and has a great pedigree. Well, you're probably gonna produce some fire out of it. You know what I mean? That's a potential there. You know, it's potential there because you have a bad pedigree. So, you know, again, but then you could have a dog that doesn't look the part or looks the part and has a horrible pedigree. So now you're taking a chance. You know what I mean? Because it's like, hey, you might get something because the dog is a good looking dog. And I'll give you an example of that in a minute. You have a good looking dog, but you know, the pedigree is not completely top notch to your standard, let's say, you know, because again, this is all, you know, how you say, it's all based on perception, right? So, you know, what you might think is nice, Corey, I may say, Corey, that's ugly. Like, you know, and I'll give you plain words here, you know, excuse myself, guys. I'm a Navy veteran, so I'm pretty blunt sometimes. So I get right to it. And I'll say, hey, listen, hey, dog's ugly. You know, it's as simple as that to me. You know, I don't play around games. You know, I'm not very politically correct anyway. But at least I try to be sometimes. But a lot of times it just comes out real. And, you know, and I guess my definition is saying it has nothing to do with the personality, dog. Just because you got a lot of times the ugliest dog make the greatest dogs. They make the greatest family pets. You know what I mean? You know, and then sometimes you get pretty dogs that just happen to be mutts that, you know, they look beautiful. You know what I mean? Beautiful mixed breed dog, you know? So it's not to say, you know, your dog is an idiot because it may not look the part, but I'm just talking about if we're going on show breeding standards, you know, there's a standard for a reason, right?
Right.
So again, when it comes to that, just because you have a certain look in a dog, pedigree, that's where pedigree becomes important. So what I think separates me and a lot of people that I work with, what separates us from other people is that I don't get too excited when I see a dog that looks good. I'm like, yeah, that looks good, but let me see what that pedigree looks like. You know what I mean? that you see, now when you get to that, you know you've reached another level of breeding. Once you start getting like that, because I used to be like that. I used to be like that too.
Yeah.
I used to be like that too. I used to get excited too, man. Oh man, look at that dog. That dog. Ooh, yeah. Oh yeah, I want to breed to that dog. I ain't seen one bit of this dog's pedigree.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm excited. You know what I mean? That, you know, dog might have Ebola, and I'm gonna be excited about the dog breeding with my dog. You know, or something it could pass on. You know, but bottom line is that hey, let's see the pedigree. Let's see what's behind this dog. Let's see if that dog's consistent with hip and elbow stuff in terms of the lineage. You know, has there been an issue? Regardless of anything, it could be anything. So for me, it's not necessarily how a dog looks. That's always that. You wouldn't be human if you weren't attracted by how somebody looks.
Right.
Or by how something looks. You wouldn't be human. And a lot of people misconstrue that word too when they hear attraction. Attraction is usually associated to Attraction means, and I'm not even gonna go into that, but I say is attraction just means what you like. You know what I'm saying? What I may like in a woman, Corey, may not be what you like. You know what I mean? She could be standard-wise, she could be the baddest chick in the world, but you may not like what she looks like.
Right.
Like, nah, Corey, I don't like that. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? There's some guys like, we can go into something. There's some guys that like women with rounded behinds and this and that, or some guys don't care about a chest or whatever. I'm just getting a little personal now, but you know what I mean. I'm just trying to make a point. What you like in any breed or anything. Not comparing women and dogs, by the way, but what you like in anything, in anything is basically your perception. You know what I mean? So it really comes down to that. And then there's a standard too. Is it falling within that standard as well?
Right.
At least for me. And that's for me. So I would say pedigree is super important in that sense, where you're looking at what these dogs look like before you breed them. Because again, I used to be the same way. I see a dog, this is my uneducated self in terms of the breed and in terms of breeding. I look at dog, oh man, that's a bad dog. Yeah, we need to breed to that. I used to do that all the time. There's still people that do that and guilty of that. I'm like, yeah, he's a bad. Now I'm like, ooh, okay, that's a good looking dog. All right, where's that pedigree at, bro?
Mm-hmm.
That's me all the time. That's me all the time. You can never just impress me on how a dog looks. It's great that he looks that way, but then he might have a butt ugly pedigree, and then now to me, you're taking a risk because now you got this back pedigree. And you're like, oh, there was a dog like that at least my friend thought. I won't name my friend right now.
Right.
But this was the top dog in the world, Astor von Juniperi, if I'm not mistaken, if I'm pronouncing the name right. Astor was the 2010 basically Rottweiler champion, international Rottweiler champion. This means world, okay? Number one dog in the world, number one Rottweiler in the world, okay? Astor. And Astor was definitely one of those dogs that pioneered a new look in terms of the Rottweiler. I think a lot of people would agree with me on that. And when Astor was already a dog in demand, but when he won the world championship, man, forget about it, bro. When he won the world championship, that dog was wanted everywhere. I'd imagine that the people that owned him, they probably made somewhere in between. They made hundreds of thousands of dollars off that dog and just semen, okay? Because the dog was so wanted. But my point is that when my friend, who's a second generation Rottweiler breeder, not just a second generation breeder, but a second generation Rottweiler breeder. This was bad. This guy grew up with Rottweilers. Okay, he's know nothing but them for the most part. He's had other pets, but he knows the breed in and out because his daddy was a Rottweiler breeder. Okay, so and he's taken on to it now. Now he's a super popular Rottweiler breeder. At any rate, I remember him telling me this. I said, "Oh man, that Astor is nice, man. Oh yeah, this and that." And I was in my little young self kind of, and sure enough, he told me, "Yeah, Dave, he nice, man, but his pedigree ugly." This is the world champ, bro. Okay, this is the world champ. I remember him saying that to me. That he ain't bat an eyelash. He said just like that. He said, man, his pedigree is alright though. His pedigree is alright. It's not that, but man, I think his pedigree is ugly. And it's not to say it was for him in terms of his standards that he thought the pedigree wasn't up to par. Now I will tell you, this guy has very high standards. He's a second generation breeder. Again, I reiterate that he's a second generation breeder. But man, so when he said something to me, that was liquid gold. That was gold to me. So when he would say something to me, and to this day, it's still gold. When he says something about a Rottweiler to me, I take heed very quickly, and I'm like, okay, all right. If you say it, I believe it because I know what his standards are. You know what I mean? And he's got beautiful dogs to prove it. Like I know what his standards are. So when he says something to me, I'm like, okay. If my friend said this, then I know that for a fact. You know what I mean? I know that it must be fact and it's based off of experience and research, not just off his personal opinion. And when I tell you, he's probably one of the most researching dudes I know in terms of, especially when it comes to Rottweiler breed and breeding in general. Like he's like a breeding savant. Like, he knows how to breed a dog. Like he knows how to breed animals. Forget the dogs. He knows how to put it together. Like he knows it in and out. He could tell you what you're going to produce in 2 years. Like, no, if you do this, and that, I guarantee you're going to have this. And he can tell you that's how bad he is in this thing. Yeah. And that's the guy I've had for a mentor. You know what I mean? And his standard was such as so it influenced my standard on how I'm going to breed going forward. Even and it's ever evolving, man. Sometimes you might do something where you're like, Okay, that was an experiment. I see where we're going, but you know, I won't go in that direction any further because I don't like what it's producing on this end. Now, to the regular person who's not really reading, they're like, "Oh man, what you talking about? That dog's beautiful." But when you start really doing this thing, you notice things that other people don't notice. They're not going to pay attention to. You know what I mean? It's the same reason Michael Jordan's the way he is and Kobe is. You know, you might say, "Damn, you did 500 shots already. That should be good enough." For them, they're like, "Nah, man, I'm gonna do it till my arms fall off,
Right.
till I'm genuinely tired." That's how I'm gonna do it. That's my standard. You can leave if you want, but I'm staying in this gym, get this work in. You know. So you know, you had guys like Kobe and Jordan, and just to give it a comparison, guys like Kobe and Jordan, who were the first people to come in and the last people to leave. But that's how I like to treat this breathing thing. I like to do it to the top, to the most, how you say, to the highest level of the standard. You know what I'm saying? Or the direction I think it should go. You know,
Right.
for me. You know, and that it helps to breathe along. You know, so that's just one of those things I just say about that. But again, that goes back to the original part of having a dog that looks the part but may not have the pedigree, and having a dog that may not look the part and have the pedigree. So this goes back to that science thing when I told you this thing can be tricky, man. You know, again, you can have an ugly dog that you're like, this pedigree is really, really nice. Let me, you know, and let me put that together. Let me see what happens, you know. And I've watched it happen, Corey. I see, even recently. I'm gonna tell you recently. I'm not gonna name any names, but recently I saw a photo of a dog, and the dog was like, you know, this dog was what I like to call him. Make sure you copyright this for me, Corey. I call a Rottweiler. My wife calls a Rottweiler as well. You know, so have people gonna start saying it and say, "Oh, yeah, you heard it from me first."
Yeah.
Yeah, I call them Rottweilers. These are dogs that are elongated. They have the color of a Rottweiler, but they look like something else. They look like a rat or something else going on. And my other one, my wife likes to say, is called a Rottweiler. You know, and that's where you got this elongated, tall thing. Rottweilers ain't supposed to be super tall, by the way, people. You know, look at the breed. They're not supposed to be a super tall. They're not supposed to be Great Dane like. So some people brag on that. Like, look how tall my dog. Like, hey, your dog is really out of standard, bro, in terms of what the dog is supposed to be able to do. You know. So it's like, and I love the people with the tall dogs and they don't got the weight to back it up. So it's like now you got this tall thing that looks like an antelope with the ears folded, you know what I'm saying, without the horns, hence the Rottweiler or the Rottweiler. That's what I call it, you know. So these are dogs that is just clearly out of standard, by the way, Corey. So, but I seen a dog like that recently, and you know, where the individual bred this dog, you know what I'm saying, bred this dog to a nice male. Again, I'm not going to name any dogs right now because I don't want to. But they bred it to this nice dog, top badass male. And in this case, those puppies came out fire. And now I'm gonna back up because some people go, "Oh, any puppies come out fire." You're correct. Any puppies can come out fire. But I'm gonna tell you what. Once you see a dog at 6 to 9 months old or 6 to 10 months old, that dog kind of shows the present of what it's gonna look like, right?
Right.
Okay, even if it hasn't gained all the weight, even if it hasn't done all that, most of the time your dog's going to show out between 6 and 10 months. They're going to show maybe even 6 and 12. I give it even more room. 6 and 12 months, you're going to see what that dog is supposed to really kind of look like. Man, I saw these puppies. They were like 8 and 9 months old. Those dogs were bad, and I'm telling you, they were born from a Rottweiler.
Yeah.
but the male was so nice. Like the male, and I shouldn't say the male was so nice, is because clearly, you know, if we want to talk realistically, the pedigree just matched so well that it couldn't help but produce what it produced. That's just really what came down to. You know what I mean? And that goes against the science of breeding, man. You know what I mean? If you put this together right, you might think you got something mediocre, but if you breed it correctly, you know, you're looking at and why pedigree is so important. Because if you have something with a fire pedigree and the dog may not look all that great, you know, and we're not talking about crazy out of standard, Corey. We're talking about like, you know, we're not talking about like, hey, dog looks like a damn Chihuahua and you're breeding it to a Rottweiler. No. What we're saying is the dog is not. This dog ain't winning the show anytime soon. Let's put it that way. In terms of a Rottweiler show, that's what I mean. So, and then it was bred and it produced, and it was like, holy crap! And I looked at those dogs months later, and I was like, holy crap! Look at these puppies, man. They look like they came off a bomb, mom, and beautiful, beautiful dogs. Like I was like, holy crap! So even to this day, and this was just this past week that I'm telling you, I saw these dogs. So I'm like, whoa, okay, I see what's going on here. Matter of fact. No, I ain't even gonna give up tweets. I was about to say something, but I ain't gonna say it. I'd have gave it away.
Man.
But let's just say, I will say this: the dog is a dog I'll potentially be using in the program, the male that produced those puppies. Because if you're breeding that dog to a, let's put it that way, you know what? You're not gonna know what dog it is anyway unless I say the dog. So I said I'm definitely gonna be using that male in this program because he lines up with a couple of my females very well in the pedigree. But also, if that dog is producing dogs like that with that little Rottweiler, I can only imagine what it's going to do with one of my girls. You know what I mean?
Very impressed you that well, huh?
Yes. I'm definitely using that dog. Let's put it that way, Corey. I'll tell you on the side who that dog is.
Man, that's crazy, man. It's crazy that people, they take risks like that. You know what I mean? They out there playing with anything, basically, just seeing what they get, and just for that person to come out with something nice. And
yes, exactly.
So it's nice because
that's right. And I learned that over time too, because everybody most people's perception of breeding, everything is visual to them. You know what I mean? So you'll have people miss on. It's kind of like finding an old muscle car. You know what I mean? That outside the car is rusted. Imagine this. This is the perfect way I could. This is an example I think is pretty. It kind of hits it on the head there. Right? Hits the nail on the head. It's like finding a Mustang that's supreme condition, like an old school, nice muscle car Mustang that you like. If that's your flavor, whatever, a Challenger, whatever. Think about that, right? Chevelle, whatever. You find that car and you see, ooh, that's pristine, that's in good shape. Then you find that same car, right? But it might have some rust on the outside, doors kind of dinged in, the roof's not all up to par. However, when you open that hood, there's fire under the hood. Fire. That car probably beat any car, you know what I mean, in terms of a race or whatever the case may be. And the engine is in great condition. Well, between you and me, I want that car because I could do everything else on it. You know what I'm saying? I want that car. Now, in a breeding sense, what I'm trying to relate to it is that you may have something hidden in your dog that you don't know about. Clearly, you can't change the appearance of your dog. You know, your dog looks like what your dog's gonna look like, but you could work with that pedigree. You know what I mean? Depending, it's just my personal belief. Some people might tell me, "Oh no," I don't listen to everybody, bro. I do my own thing, kind of. You know, that's why I tell people breed what you like. You know, but what I mean is that I've been doing this long enough to where I can do something and, for lack of better words, take a risk on something that somebody else probably wouldn't have the chops to be able to put together because they just lack the experience to do it. You know, for me, I can see a potential in there and say, you know what, that's something I'm willing to take a risk on because the dog is healthy. I'm not making deformed dog. Dog has all the certifications, you know, it just may not look the complete part, but the pedigree is fire, you know? So I'm doing it. I still have a standard in which I'm going to breed that dog, you know what I mean? In terms of based on elbow, hip certification, whatever, this and that. Just may not be the most fire looking dog, but the pedigree is fire. So it's like, bro, I'm gonna try to capitalize on that pedigree, you know, or I may potentially capitalize on that pedigree, you know. So it's one of those things that it is possible. Is my point. It is possible both ways. It's possible to have a dog that looks great with a crappy pedigree, and a dog that doesn't look so great with a great pedigree. And before I end that, back to Astor. As it turns out, Astor produced very nice dogs, by the way, even though he had what my friend called a crappy pedigree. You know, like he had, in fact, correction, quote unquote, he called it, his pedigree's ugly, man, which means that he didn't like the dogs on the back end. He didn't like how they looked.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't that the dogs weren't champs. They were, but he's just saying in terms of his standards. And there's been dogs like that I've seen myself that I won't name because I don't want to crap on anybody's dog. But I've seen dogs out there that I'm like, oh, that dog ugly. You know what I mean? But that was what I thought. But I could eat my words and tell you that dog, when that dog produced, You know what I mean? So this is how I know it's true because I see it all the time.
Man, that's crazy, man. We're not gonna give them everything all in one podcast, man.
Nah, we can't get them all.
Get you to come back, but let me one of my last questions for you today.
Sure.
Where is your overall satisfaction with the breed? Is it below average, up to par, exceeding your expectations? Where are you at with the breed and what you see people out there?
I would say it's up to par. I wouldn't say necessarily exceeding expectations right now because, you know, like anything else, you're always waiting for the next great thing, you know. so I wouldn't say necessarily exceeding expectations per se, but definitely up to par. Definitely up to par. There's a lot of people out there breeding great dogs, you know, and I'll shout them out one day. But I shout them all out because I like to give daps to everybody. Hell, I give some dap now, like Lions Paul, Rottweilers, Space City. You guys are on the brink of doing your thing. You know, you guys are new, but you're getting in there. We got River City Rottweilers throwing out great dogs. Who else? Von Bustos House Rottweilers. Who else? Von Ruhlman throws out great dogs, and he's a second generation breeder, by the way. So that dude's got experience. So you folks better pay attention when you hear Von Ruhlman speak, because that dude's got experience. That kid grew up in that thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so second generation family's been breeding over 40 some odd years, like my friend as well. So whenever you see something like that, let's say a guy's a jerk or not, and not to say he is, but let's say somebody's a jerk or not, you know what I'm saying? You better believe that person got knowledge. That's for damn sure. You know what I'm saying? He's got stuff that you wouldn't even think about thinking. You wouldn't think about even entertaining that he knows. You know what I mean? He's probably forgot more things than you can ever learn. So people like that, you got to pay attention to, because you can learn something from everybody. I'm a humble dude, so I like to listen to everybody. As long as I've been doing this, man, I ain't learned everything. I don't know everything. I'm still learning. You know what I mean? I'm still trying to educate myself, and I think that's the best way to keep yourself in dog breeding, because if you think you got it all down packed, and that goes for anything in life, shit, to me, you're bound to fail, or you're bound to be in the back of the pack. And what I mean by, I think I made that a good point saying it that way. You'll find yourself in the back of the pack because you think you know everything. And then the next guy who's actually studying and paying attention to all the newest things coming up to improve a breeding program, well, he's doing it and he becomes top dog. You know what I mean? So I think part of it is not just the knowledge you have, but the knowledge that you try to inquire still, trying to just keep pouring vast amounts of knowledge into your cup, you know what I mean? And try to learn and learn and learn. That's the best thing you could do. So even with me, as long as I've been doing it, man, I still learn something new I should say every day, but regularly. I learn something new regularly that I probably didn't know, So, and even sometimes from somebody who's coming up who may not have as much time in the Rottweiler game as me might teach me something. And I tell them like, hey, you know what? I didn't know that, bro. That actually makes sense. He's like, yeah, I was thinking about it because I was doing it with my dogs, and so I would say the state of Rottweilers again is definitely it's up to par. I think it's up to par. I would say dogs don't look like crap. Not every dog looks like how I want it to look like, but it'd be a boring world if every dog looked like how I want it to look like.
So do you have anything coming up, anything you want to let the people know, any breed announcements that you want to exclusively give us here at Space City Rottweilers, or anything in the near future?
Oh, yeah. Actually, it's funny you mention that, because I have people now I've had for a long time, over the last couple of years. My wife and I have a wife and a lot of close friends, including yourself, that tell me like, Dave, you know a lot of things and whatnot. It's not to my own horn, but it's just through research and stuff, and things that I've acquired, knowledge that I've gotten from friends, people who've helped me, my mentors, stuff like that have helped me, and I put those things together and some. So over time, people have over the years, people have called me, asked me questions, and I readily share that information. A lot of times, I don't have problems sharing it. But as late, I'm so busy now with the Rottweiler thing, and doing my thing now, especially with the times we're in terms of just how I spread my schedule or spread my time.
Right.
That now I'm going to be offering like a consulting service, because my wife always tells me, and friends and family all tell me the same thing, that David, you give away too much information. You doing this, and that. It's because I don't mind sharing with people, Right. But at the same time, I do got to know that my time is worth something, and I'm definitely going to be offering people consulting services in terms of breeding, the Rottweiler in general, and breeding. This goes for any dog, you know what I mean? Because I don't just research Rottweilers. A lot of people think, oh, you don't. I research every breed. I mean, I'd be an expert on every breed, but I research every breed, and I research the dog in general. The dog in general, so that means small breed, large breed, medium-sized breed. I like that. I'm a nerd that way. I like to research that stuff. That's my downtime. Sometimes I'm opening up a dog encyclopedia. I'm just reading it. And somebody else, what are you doing that for? You got something coming up? No, man, I just like reading the book. I mean, that's just me. So through that, I've acquired some knowledge that, and then people find it valuable. So, I haven't really come up with a price point yet for the consultation. It won't be nothing horrendous or anything like that. But, I'm willing to give anywhere between a half an hour to an hour of my time, even more. It's all based on what the fee would be per hour to consult people in terms of pointing them in the right direction. Even Corey will tell you that when he had his first litter, I was on the phone with him the whole time. You know,
Man,
yeah,
definitely.
you know, most of the time, not the whole time, but I was on the phone and I had my phone ready, and Corey was calling me. And Corey's in Texas, I'm in Florida. We're about an hour apart in terms of time zone, but
Yeah.
you know, it was not, which is not a big deal, of course, you know. But you know, Corey, he was calling me at 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, calling me, and I was picking up the phone, you know, you know, so to me, I'll be there, and but these are things that you know that if I were just to give to everybody and their mom would be calling me, you know.
Right.
So these are things that, you know, time is worth something. And I believe I've acquired enough knowledge to be able to pass on certain things that you may not be aware of and some things you may be aware of, you know. But even just to have somebody on the phone with you while you're going through your first litter. I mean, you tell them, Corey, now I can't break it down to you. Well, I can because I've had it happen to me. But you can tell them that it's a nice comfort to have somebody who knows what they're doing, even if it's just on the phone or on a Zoom like we're doing right now.
Hell yeah, man. It was so calm you was, and you know, this was my first time ever doing this, man. So I just was bouncing everywhere, like, hey, hey, man, this is doing this, and you just answer my question, or you know, tell me what to do so calm. And I was like, man, I can't wait to get to that point.
Yeah, man. Yeah, eventually it'll be like nothing to you, man. It'll be like everyday stuff. I don't even get nervous. No, I always get a little nerves on me because I'm preparing. You know, I've always been like that. You know, I'm a combative athlete. I grew up wrestling and fighting and competing in, you know, martial arts tournaments, boxing tournaments, things like that. So I've always had this little thing about me whenever I'm getting ready to start something or fight or whatever the case may be, getting ready for an event, that I always had a little bit of nerves in me. Call it scared, call it what you want, but it always kind of kept me sharp. You know, so there's nothing wrong with having that little bit of, you know, a little bit of butterflies there. But once you go through something so many times, you know, I mean, I can tell you right now, it's not as sharp as it used to be. You know what I mean? Just from doing it over and over again. So for me, that's an everyday event. I've gotten to the point where my wife and kids, you know, I don't even have to be in the house when puppies are born. My wife and kids know what to do. My daughter's only 12. My son is going to be 17 this month, and but they were both raised in puppies, raising puppies and littering, so they know how to handle them. So if something goes down, they know to the extent on what to do. Even if it's something they can't handle, then they know that hey, next step is we got to go to the vet or go do something else. If puppies being delivered or whatever. So I'm comfortable in that to the point where I'm like, yeah, you know, it doesn't really phase me anymore to have pups coming, you know, because also the other thing about that is that as you go, you'll learn how to be better prepared for these things.
Right,
So
right.
we got it down to a science, man. I'm already ready. I'm already ready a week in advance with all my supplies and everything. You know, week or two in advance with everything. I got it. I literally go in, even if somebody tries to surprise me with a pup, which is rare. You know, I already got a basket full of all my equipment, so I'm boop boop. I'm like a doctor with a bag. I'm like, oh, hey, here we go. Let's go. That's it.
Yeah, man. Well, where can the people reach you if they want to get with you on the consulting or just?
Well, main thing you could do is just obviously you can go hit me up at all the social media pages. They're all the same, pretty much. They're at A9 Rottweilers. That's the letter A, the number 9, Rottweilers. ROTTWEILERS.com. All right, so A9Rottweilers.com. You can also reach us at A9 Rottweilers on Instagram and Facebook. You can search us in Google. We got pretty good reviews, if I'm not mistaken, and whatnot. And also another way to hit us is via phone. I got my cell phone on me as well. Our telephone number is 386-866-0617. I am on Eastern Standard Time because I know sometimes you got to tell people that. And
Yeah.
you call me from California at like 9 p.m. your time, it's midnight for me. So, so just keep that in mind and whatnot. Usually we do have hours of operation. You know, so usually around 5 to 6 p.m. And even that, I'll break those rules sometimes. My wife is always getting on me about that. But usually the latest I take a call is about 6 p.m. But I'm known to take a call at 10 p.m. as well. So, you know, I'm just how you say, I like to share my knowledge like that. But, you know, I definitely encourage you to call me within those hours, anywhere between 10 a.m. and maybe 6 p.m. in the evening. And even I don't mind some 7 p.m. calls sometimes too. But we do have the actual hours on our website. That's www.a9rottweilers.com. You can go see more info on our dogs in terms of pedigrees and, you know, even, I don't think I have all the hip and elbow certifications posted on there, but we do have those as well on our dogs. But again, you know, those are the ways you can reach us. And, you know, we don't know what the rate is going to be. It's not going to be anything horrendous, but probably somewhere in the vicinity of starting like $20 an hour or something like that, maybe 25 an hour to talk to me and just get some info. If you're having puppies, you know, and you want somebody to just have your back on the phone that knows what they're doing or has been through the process, regardless of breed, you can definitely give me a call. But we have to plan it ahead of time. You don't want to call me when the puppies are coming out. You want to call me and let me know, like, at least a week in advance, like, hey, puppies are coming, like, potentially Friday, Saturday. Okay. That way I can schedule it to be on the phone with you regardless of the time that is. So that's the only time I won't have a time cap is when you're having puppies, because puppies come any time of the day. So it could be 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And luckily for people, I'm a night owl, so it works out nice anyway. So that's how you can contact us, and those are the services you're going to be offering now. Even recommendations on trainers in your potential area, if I know any, I can give you that information as well. Of course, that's going to be just free of charge, but you can Google that stuff too.
Right.
But in terms of me directly consulting you in terms of how to progress your kennel, what things you could do in terms of food, feeding, nutrition, supplements for dogs, for the goods and bads, how to set up kennels, how to, what kind of kennels to get, where I get my stuff, my equipment from, and things like that. Yeah, if you want the sauce, you gotta pay for the sauce. You know what I mean? That's how it works.
But they say the game is to be sold, not told.
Well, Roger that. That's for sure, man. And I don't mind helping here. And Corey, you know how I am, man. I give you, you're probably paying for the hour, and I'll stay on the phone with you for 2. You know what I mean? That's just how I am. You know what I mean? But but my wife said, "Nah, we can't do that anymore." So.
Well, man, we definitely appreciate you. I definitely appreciate your time today.
No doubt.
Definitely got to do this again, man, because there's so much stuff that we didn't get into, man.
There's so much stuff we didn't get into, man. We can go into other crazy stuff. We didn't even get into the breed hardcore, but we could make it a regular occurrence, man. We could do something weekly or something, or make it happen eventually. Once we have more time. Actually, right now the time is perfect. To tell you the truth, with everything that's going on.
Right.
But we definitely could do it again and we talk, and share the info we have with people. There is some info that I'm definitely willing to share. There's some secrets. Everybody in the breeding game has secrets that they just like, hey, I'm just not giving that away. That's what makes me me, and if I am going to give you something like that, that's something that you're going to have to invest into for yourself, because everything I've learned and done is I didn't get for free. A lot of it, and what I mean by that is that sometimes I had to pay buku bucks out of my pocket in terms to learn a hard lesson. You know what I mean? But because I had the knowledge of that hard lesson, I never let that happen again. But I know people that repeat that lesson regularly, but don't even know don't even know what to do to stop that. So those are things I can consult you on. When it comes to breeding, artificial inseminations, hell, C-sections, things like that. How to set up whelping to make it real easy for you to whelp puppies. A lot of people don't want to do breeding because, and I don't mind that either, because not everybody's meant to do breeding or to be in the breeding game. You got a lot of people that just aren't responsible enough to be able to handle it and what comes with it, because they think it's just put the dogs together, let the dog have puppies, and that's that. And it's so much more to it than that, as you know, Corey, right? As you learned anyway, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's a lot that goes into it, even just whelping puppies. So for me, I'm definitely willing to share those things and those mistakes that I've made. And, hell, like I said, I'm still learning. I still pay attention. I'm still learning, but I definitely have a plethora of knowledge, at least I think I do, that I can share with people and it could be helpful.
Right. Well, hey, man, I think this is where we're going to wrap it up, man. Definitely appreciate it again, man. Hope y'all stay safe.
No doubt.
And enjoy that Florida weather. Even though,
of course, man, it's humid right now, though. It's freaking too hot. That's what Floridians complain about sometimes. It's too hot.
Yeah. Well, hey, Dave, man, we definitely going to do this again, man. I definitely appreciate you, brother.
All right, man. You take care, baby. We'll talk soon. We'll make it happen again for sure.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, man. No problem.